No one expected the human to laugh at the imperial feast. Not beneath chandeliers spun from comet glass, not under the floating war banners of conquered worlds. Not in the heart of the Valari court, where every smile had an edge and every silence meant rank. Princess Thae'lin sat at the center of it all. Silver-crowned, violet-eyed, radiant in the cold way. A knife is radiant. And across from her sat the only guest without jewels. Without medals, without fear, Elias Vann of Earth. In a plain, dark coat with the insignia stripped off, looking less like a diplomat than a man who had outlived too many funerals to care where he was seated. Then the princess asked the question that froze the music in the room. Human. How many wars have you survived? Crystal goblets stopped halfway to noble lips. Servants went still, even the musicians forgot their next note. Because in the Empire, that question was never casual. It was weighing a test of blood and danger and value. The kind of question asked before an alliance, a duel, or an execution. Elias looked at the wine in his glass for a long moment, then gave a tired little smile. "Do you want the official number?" he asked. "Or the real one?" A ripple of amusement passed through the nobles, but it faded when the princess leaned forward and said, "The real one?" Elias set down his glass, and when he spoke, his voice was low and steady. The voice of someone who no longer needed to sound powerful to be dangerous. "Officially, 12, he said. "That is the number with declarations. Borders, uniforms, fleet records, memorials. All the clean labels governments use so they can pretend horror is organized." A few nobles shifted in their seats, unsure whether the human was being insolent or merely honest. But the real number depends on how honest your species is willing to be. If you count civil collapses, 16. If you count insurgencies, 21. If you count religious slaughters, 27. If you count famine created by blockade, 32. If you count riots that began with empty shelves and ended with children carrying rifles, 39. If you count the little private wars inside refugee camps, the ones fought for water, medicine, and one more night of breathing. Then I stopped counting years ago. A murmur moved through the feast, then died, because Elias kept going. Calm as winter, I was born during one war, drafted in another, promoted in a third, because the officer above me no longer had a face. One have fought on cities so ruined their maps became fiction. I have watched peace treaties signed over tables still warm from the dead dragged off them an hour before. And every single time someone powerful said it would be the last one, now no one touched their food. No one smiled. No one looked comfortable inside their silk and gold. The princess herself had gone very still, studying him in a new way, not as a curiosity now, but as a door she was no longer sure she wanted opened. Then he said the thing that emptied the warmth from the hall. Humans know about the war after the war. His eyes moved from noble to noble, measuring them like positions on a battlefield. That is the long one, the one no one celebrates, where amputees learn stairs, where mothers set tables for sons who are never coming home, where soldiers wake up choking because some part of them is still under a burning sky. That war can last longer than all the others combined. His fingers rested lightly on the table, scarred, steady, unshaking. So if you are asking how many wars I survived, the answer is not a number. It is a climate. It is the air my people grew up breathing, and that is why humans frighten empires. Because you think surviving war teaches obedience, but eventually it teaches arithmetic. Several nobles frowned. But the admirals understood at once. He saw it in their eyes. The quick, cold movement of trained minds catching up to the trap. Arithmetic, Elias repeated. You kill 10,000, we learn how to move 1,000,000. You destroy one fleet, we build drones in mines, garages, and school basements. You burn a colony, we turn shipping lanes, farm moons, civilian fabs, every spare engine and broken hull into part of the equation. Because once a species has survived enough wars, it stops asking how to win with honor. It starts asking what is still available to lose. The hall was silent now, except for the soft hum of palace shields and the faint crackle of floating banners overhead. Even the servants had forgotten their training and were staring. He rose from his chair with the stiffness of old injuries. Not for effect, just because bodies remember what history does to them. That is the mistake conquerors keep making, he said. They think exhaustion means weakness, but exhaustion is what comes after adaptation. And humans adapt faster than grief can bury us. We grow food in ash, we patch holes with wire and prayer, we turn funerals into recruitment lines. We teach our children history early, so they learn the sound of lies wearing noble language. Princess Thae'lin stood too, almost without meaning to, and the whole court watched as Elias placed one scarred hand on the banquet table between them, among jeweled knives and untouched meat. So here's the real answer, princess. I have survived enough wars to know that if humanity ever decides a feast like this is part of the problem, the people seated at it will not hear the end coming until the lights go out. No one answered him, because suddenly the banners above them did not look triumphant. They looked like evidence in the splendor of the feast. So dazzling a moment before had become something smaller, thinner. Fragile as glass under pressure, Princess Thae'lin lowered her gaze to her untouched goblet, and for the first time in her life understood what it meant to sit across from a species that had not been shaped by war, but sharpened by it. The feast ended there. Not by command, not by violence, but by a silence so heavy it felt like prophecy. Because the human had not boasted, had not threatened, had not begged. He had only counted. And somehow that was the most terrifying thing anyone at that table had ever heard.